Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Torres podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Finally, let's get to the last game, which is also the first game, by the way. It is the Fiesta Bowl. Thursday night, New Year's Eve, Penn State versus Boise State. And boy, oh boy, what a fun game this one should be. Penn State is an 11.5-point favorite. That number is up from earlier in the week when it was 10.5. The over-under in this one is set at 52.5. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Let's go ahead and break it down. Yes, we have Rocket New Year's Eve with James Franklin, Rocket New Year's Eve with Ashton Jeanty. And let me say this. We started the show in my Ohio State, Oregon preview, gave a lot of credit to Ryan Day. Said, look, if I'm going to criticize him, if I'm going to tear him down in defeat, I got to give him credit in victory. Same with James Franklin. Because the James Franklin Penn State narrative, not just this year, but really for about 2.5 years since they announced that there was going to be an expanded college football playoff, the whole conversation was essentially like, hey, there is no program that is going to benefit from a 12-team college football playoff more than Penn State. Yes, they struggled against Ohio State. Yes, in the Harbaugh regime, they struggled against Michigan, but they beat everybody else. They're going to be fine. I wasn't sold on it, and everybody was right. Penn State goes 11-1 in the regular season, only losses to Ohio State at home, a very respectable loss to Oregon in the Big Ten championship game, and now they're coming into this one rolling. I think this, I'll say this. I think this program is playing with as much confidence as I can remember it playing with. They hung with Oregon. They destroyed SMU. The big question is how things go against Boise on Tuesday night. In terms of the positives for Penn State, listen, I'll say this. It's hard to take too much out of that SMU game. You feel bad for Kevin Jennings, or at least I do. Maybe you don't. I just felt bad for the kid. It was so clear that, that moment probably got to him. It wasn't just all of the interceptions. But remember that opening drive, what was it, 4th and 1, something like that? He could have easily run it for a first down, instead decides to throw, and from there, it was kind of ball game, right? Throws the 2 pick sixes before halftime. Penn State's up 21-0 before you even blink. So again, I just don't know that there's like a ton to really take away from that game. But the one thing that I will say over the last couple games, I do think this Andy Nittany offense is really figuring things out. And I think there's a lot of reason for excitement in this program, not only for this game, but for what could potentially be for the rest of this season and then next season as well. If we believe that Drew Aller is coming back, he has announced it. We'll see if they go on a deep playoff run, then maybe things change. But Drew Aller's coming back. Both running backs could come back. We'll see what's there. And you have the offensive coordinator and Andy Nittany. And so I could go on and on, but again, I go back to that Big Ten championship game against Oregon. 523 yards of total offense, 226 yards passing. Drew Aller was good. It was the run game, which was next level. 297 yards rushing, 8.7 yards per carry, and they really just kind of ran the ball down Oregon's throat. They don't win the game, but that run offense was so elite. I think the offense is clicking. And then the defense, I know it wasn't pretty against Oregon, but Oregon is just that good. And the defense is what the defense has always been under James Franklin. Top 5 in the country in total defense. As far as scoring defense is concerned, they're in the top 10. They stopped the run very effectively, top 10 in that category. And of course, the pass defense, which has been, quote unquote, the weak link to what they do. That's still by the way, for people keeping score at home, a top 20 pass defense as well. So the defense is making plays. They're flying around. They're getting the job done. And now it'll just be interesting to see what happens with this Boise State offense coming in. Listen, coming in, we know the story. Ashton Jeanty, unbelievable season. I mean, Ashton Jeanty's season, I still think Travis Hunter should have won the Heisman. It doesn't change the fact that Ashton Jeanty was just absurd. 2,400 yards rushing, 7 yards per carry, 29 touchdowns in 13 games. I think the big question to me in this game is what everybody's question is. What about the pass game? What about the defense? The defense, to its credit, especially against the run, was very good throughout the season. Top 25 run defense. It's why I picked Boise to win the Mountain West Championship game. They completely shut down UNLV. Do think it's going to be a little bit of a different task, though, against this Penn State offense. Again, with Singleton and Katron Allen, they are running the ball at will. And then I think, obviously, the other conversation is, what about the Boise pass game? You look at what this pass offense has had to do. Maddox Madsen, just hasn't been asked to do too much. 2,700 yards passing. He doesn't turn the ball over, to his credit. But he's not a guy that has been asked to throw the ball 30, 35 times a game. It's been Ashton Genty this, Ashton Genty that. And yes, there is a couple times where he's kind of hit that 30, 35 passing attempt mark. There's also a lot of games where he threw 21 times, 24 times, 20 times, 26 times. And I just don't know, if you put the game on his shoulders, what you can realistically expect. As far as a pick is concerned, I'll say this: of the 4 quarterfinals, this is the one I'm least confident with. I think Penn State, I feel pretty confident is going to win. Do I feel like they're going to cover? Do I feel like it's going to be an over? Do I feel like it's going to be an under? I will not very confidently, on a scale of if 1 to 10 and 10 being the most confident, I'll say on a scale of 6, I'll take Penn State to cover the 11.5. Truth be told, I just think it's obvious, right? I mean, do you need me to really break it down? You look at this Penn State team. I mean, they're bigger, stronger, faster at every position. And Boise State, if you can cut off the head of the snake, again, can Maddox Madsen make plays? You look at, by the way, this Boise secondary, I didn't even mention, was not very good this year. So does Drew Aller cook? I know the wide receiver core isn't the strong suit of Penn State, but I think Drew Aller will have a very good game. I think it's worth noting they're kind of in a rhythm, because they played in the Big Ten championship game. They played in the opening round, not dealing with injuries, like a ton of injuries yet. And it's kind of just enough time where they didn't really have to exert themselves against SMU, where they got their reps in, they got their bumps, they got their bruises. They felt what it was like to hit another team, but it wasn't like they were losing bodies left and right. And so, again, I could go on and on, could tell you about this team, that, this offense against this defense, the run this against the run that. I think Penn State wins. I'll say 28-13. I'll say 31-13. I think Penn State wins. I think this could get ugly. By the way, if you're hosting people on New Year's Eve, I think this might be one you can turn off early for Ryan Seacrest.